Shalom to you from oneforisrael.org. This week we are looking at the Torah portion from Numbers chapter 4-7 called Lift Up, in Hebrew, Naso. At the heart of this portion are a few verses calling the Israelites to put out of the camp anyone who is ceremonially unclean. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Command the people of Israel that they put out of the camp everyone who is leprous or has a discharge, and everyone who is unclean through contact with the dead. You shall put out both male and female, putting them outside the camp, that they may not defile their camp in the midst of which I dwell." And the people of Israel did so, and put them outside the camp, as the Lord said to Moses. So the people of Israel did. God is full of love, mercy, and grace, and desires all to come to Him. Yet He is holy, that is to say, He is separated from all evil and sin. In the words of the prophet Habakkuk, God is of purer eyes than to see evil, and cannot look at wrong. The principle is simple. No one who is unclean can come near to God. And in ancient Israel, under the Mosaic covenant, all the unclean were put outside the camp so as not to defile it. Throughout the Hebrew scripture, the prophets performed many miracles through God's power to encourage His people. But there is a special class of miracles that were never performed, the so-called Messianic miracles. Only the Messiah would and could perform these miracles when He came, and would signify to us that He indeed is the Messiah. These Messianic miracles focus on cleansing the uncleansable. In the Babylonian Talmud, in tractate called Nedarim or Vows, it states that the Messiah would heal a blind man from birth, cure the lepers, cast out a demon causing dumbness, and raise a man dead at least 4 days. For time's sake, we will focus on a miracle of cleansing lepers, since leprosy is mentioned in this week's Torah portion. Since the Mosaic law was given and completed, no Jewish leper had been healed. In Luke chapter 5, we see Yeshua performing these messianic miracles, including the healing of lepers. While He was in one of their cities, there came a man full of leprosy. And when he saw Jesus, he fell on his face and begged Him, "Lord, if you will, you can make me clean." And Jesus stretched out His hand and touched him, saying, "I will, be clean." And immediately the leprosy left him. And He charged him to tell no one, but go and show yourself to the priest and make an offering for your cleansing, as Moses commanded, for a proof to them. But now even more the report about him went abroad, and great crowds gathered to hear him and to be healed of their infirmities. Leprosy is a progressively degenerating disease, and this man was full of leprosy all over his body. Now imagine the scene. As this unclean man approaches Jesus, the disciples, along with everyone else in the crowd, pull back as quickly as possible to stay as far away from this unclean man as possible. Perhaps they even threatened to hurt him if he came any closer, as was the custom of the day. This leper made a bold move, risked his life by approaching Jesus, and made a strange request. "Lord, if you will, if you want, you can make me clean." He had no doubt about Jesus' power, but he questioned His love, compassion, and grace. We do that many times ourselves, as we also doubt God's love and compassion for us when we approach Him. And Jesus tells him, "I want to heal you." But then He does the most peculiar thing. To the leper's great surprise, and no doubt to the absolute horror of everyone in the crowd, Jesus reached out and touched him. That touch was most likely the first loving touch this man had in years. And this man was instantly healed, and Jesus sent him to the temple in order to be declared officially clean by the priests. Normally, when unclean people touched clean people, the clean people become unclean. But here, however, we see that Jesus, the perfectly clean one, makes the unclean clean by his touch of love. And he still invites us today to come to him with all our uncleanness, to take a risk like the leper and to reach out to him. And he is willing and able to cleanse us from all uncleanliness in order to bring us from outside the camp and into his eternal presence. Please join us next week for another installment of 5 Alive. Wishing you God's shalom from One for Israel. And don't forget to share. Our ministry, One for Israel, is an initiative of native-born Israelis on the forefront of media and high-tech evangelism, boldly proclaiming salvation to Israel. Raising up leaders and equipping them with the tools they need to transform our communities. We also provide humanitarian aid to Holocaust survivors with the love of Yeshua. Join us as we share the gospel in Israel. Become One for Israel.